SCP-4856 Test Case 1 Object Class Keter Special Containment Procedures. As of November 30th, 1949, the former north wing of Site-54 has been reclassified as Containment Area 5409. All personnel within the complex are to be heavily armed with non-lethal weaponry and immediately alert one another to SCP-4856's incursions. The area's surveillance and security network has been upgraded to house Forethought Artificial Intelligent Construct, an integrated Generation Tau artificial intelligent construct designed to monitor SCP-4856 and build up a relative timeline of the entity's movements, alerting staff to SCP-4856's future activities where necessary. One member of D-Class personnel is to be placed alone and unarmed within CA-5409 every 6 months, with their subsequent death confirmed by Forethought AIC and an embedded life sign monitor, ELSM. If such a person is unavailable, 2 D-Class personnel may be delivered in the next scheduled feeding, or 3 the feeding after that. While the feeding time is largely arbitrary from SCP-4856's perspective, extensive procrastination will lead to disciplinary measures. CA-5409 is to be monitored for external damage daily, and preemptively strengthened where necessary. A single breach point located anywhere in time could be used by any number of iterations of SCP-4856 to exit the containment area. Under no circumstances is the entity to be terminated, as any termination attempts not taking place at the end of SCP-4856's life would logically already have ended in failure. In the unlikely event the entity's causal chain does not close, Mobile Task Force ETA-THEN, Bootstrappers, are to be covertly diverted from their scheduled duties to resolve any paradoxes. Description: SCP-4856 is a 2.4 meter tall humanoid entity capable of willingly transferring itself forwards and backwards through time at increments of exactly 1 hour. This transfer is instant and seamless, and multiple transfers can occur in rapid succession, with the furthest temporal distance moved by SCP-4856 in a single event being approximately 3 years, 7 months, and 2 days. All transfers form closed like-line curves, suggesting an advanced level of temporal integration not available to the Foundation in the past or investigated future. SCP-4856 has not yet shifted back past November 1st, 1949 for unknown reasons. Physically, SCP-4856 is a severely malformed and modified human, with artificial extensions to the arms, legs, neck, and spine, with metallic braces surgically attached to the lower legs. The entity possesses no mouth, eyes, or nose. Respiration and feeding are achieved via a single opening carved at the base of the neck, and the mechanism by which it senses its surroundings is not yet known. 4 subdermal prongs extend forward from the corner of the entity's jaws and forehead, pulling the facial area into a single smooth square tattoo with the Foundation logo. In all cases so far observed, SCP-4856 has been clad in a white lab coat affixed to its body at the elbows and shoulders, with the phrase Test Case 1 emblazoned on the back. The cause of its anomalous capabilities is conjectured to be a large electronic component detected within the abdominal cavity by X-ray photography. Since it has resisted all attempts at surgical examination, this has not been verified to any degree. SCP-4856 is extremely hostile towards all human subjects, and if given sufficient opportunity, will attempt to disembowel them, extracting all internal organs and consuming said organs via its neck opening. The entity displays rudimentary understandings of human psychology and hunting techniques, which it uses to its advantage, as well as a highly accurate knowledge of the layout and architecture of CA-5409. SCP-4856 has so far been responsible for 92 deaths between 1949 and the present, and upwards of 200 direct or indirect casualties. Addendum: Recovery. SCP-4856 was first observed on November 1st, 1949 within the corridors of Site-54. This is believed to be both SCP-4856's earliest presence in the timeline, and by the entity's own internal chronology, its first interaction with Foundation personnel succeeding its creation. It manifested suddenly and immediately began to attack nearby staff, directly killing one and fatally injuring 2 more. It then shifted itself forward by 3 hours, attacked members of the preliminary identification team investigating the area, and shifted back by 2 hours to prey on the medical personnel who arrived in the aftermath of the first incident. The Department of Temporal Anomalies was alerted once the acasual series of events had been noted, and by the entity's next appearance, 3 hours following the attack on the PI team, Site-54's North Wing had been evacuated of all essential staff not necessary for containment investigations. Notably, SCP-4856 did not initially manifest alone. Rather, it appeared alongside a large number of laminated documents describing its construction in extreme detail. All documents are printed on Foundation stationery, with contained valid watermarks, signatures, and document keys. Copies of these documents are available from the Site-54 archives on request. O5 Council Proposal Summary. Proposal: instruct the Department of Temporal Anomalies to commence research into a method of allowing individuals to shift through time, and encourage said department to begin human trials as soon as possible. O5-2. Additional participants? None. Council Vote Summary: 5 yay, 5 nay, 2 abstain. Status: denied. Notes: while concerns over possible paradoxes and timeline failures were brought up during the proposal, the consensus among a large portion of the Council was that the unlikely potential cost of inaction was less than the direct cost of causing SCP-4856's existence. O5 Council Proposal Summary. Proposal: directly forbid the possible creation of SCP-4856 at any time in the future due to the massive risk of human life involved. O5-1. Additional participants: Dr. Ellis Forth, Head of the Department of Temporal Anomalies, and Ethics Committee Liaison Mueller. Council Vote Summary: 6 yay, 6 nay, 2 abstain. Status: denied. Notes: the decision was made to let events take their course naturally, due to both the ethical burden of action and the paradox-free nature of SCP-4856's activities so far. Ethics Committee Liaison Mueller was removed from duty shortly after the meeting due to unwarranted vehemence and unprofessional behavior. Addendum: Incident 4856 Tango, June 12, 1999. 3:30 a.m. Several Foundation agents and researchers, under instruction from an unknown party, covertly acquire a human subject scheduled for unrelated testing that day, D002303, transporting them into the corridor in which SCP-4856 initially manifested. 3:45. Involved agents began to follow the instructions present in Document 4856-1, performing several amateur surgeries on the subject. Very little progress towards constructing SCP-4856 is completed, however, as a large number of security personnel quickly intervene. 3:48. Two groups begin arguing over the correct course of action. D002303 attempts to flee the area, but is forcibly sedated by researcher Heller. 3:53. The argument is exacerbated upon the arrival of high-level staff from Site-54's main complex. Members of the initial group are forcibly restrained, and backup is requested. 3:56. The area's alarm system reports that SCP-4856 has manifested elsewhere in the facility, and the support team are delayed in their arrival due to requiring firearm and body armor distribution. 3:59. Junior researcher Leyland, believed to have been off-duty and possibly intoxicated at the time, becomes distraught, vehemently asserting that the test case described in Document 4856-1 had to be completed in order to prevent the pest from unexisting. They subsequently stabbed the guard restraining them in the leg with a medical scalpel of uncertain origin. 401. After breaking free of their restraints and receiving verbal support from a number of the co-conspirators, Leyland darts forward and attempts to install the first of the subdermal prongs, fatally wounding the unconscious D002303 by severing the carotid artery in the process. 403. SCP-4856, having arrived in that section of the facility moments earlier, seemingly becomes enraged by D002303's death and grips Leyland by the neck, forcing them into a nearby disused containment chamber. 404. Agents Farmer and Weissman fire their tranquilizer pistols at the entity, but the darts are blocked by 3 more iterations of SCP-4856, presumably from several hours in the future, who manifest between them. 2 are successfully slowed by the agents, but the third, remaining unhindered, decapitates Farmer and extracts the lungs and partial digestive system from the agent's neck. They then immediately shift backwards by several hours, preventing apprehension. 405. Agent Weissman gives the retreat order following the manifestation of 4 more iterations of SCP-4856, who stand in a semicircular formation around the containment chamber's door. Reacher Langdon disobeys this order and attempts to breach the perimeter with their regulation handgun, meeting with a fate similar to Farmer. All remaining staff evacuate the facility. No contact was made with either Leyland or SCP-4056 for the next 2 hours. After this time had passed, the door to the chamber opened to reveal 2 instances of SCP-4856. The containment chamber internal system had been almost entirely dismantled, and a large pile of bloody organs and excess skin was present in the center of the room, identified as belonging to both Leyland and several other members of former and current staff. SCP-4056 pushed the second instance of itself into the corridor, at which point both demanifest. The destination of the second instance is believed to have been November 1st, 1949, and the destination of the first is unknown. No abnormal behavior has been observed from the entity since. Following Incident 4856 Tango, Forethought ASC detected an abnormal occurrence and submitted the security footage of the event to Site Command for analysis. All video of the area showed a tall, emaciated figure in a gray suit overseeing the scene. The entity, designated AE-4856-1, did not interact with the event at all, but made several notes on a clipboard and demanifest once SCP-4856 had been produced. Analysis of the footage suggests AE-4856-1 was surrounded by a powerful SCP concealment field for the duration of the incident, hence the lack of visibility to those involved. Subsequent in-depth analysis of pre-Forethought recordings shows a minor visual distortion at the site of SCP-4056's initial manifestation, bending to place the components of Document 4856-1 on the floor shortly after the entity appeared. The implications of this are unclear. Addendum: Document 4856-2. The first page of AE-4856-1's clipboard are visible to the closed-circuit security cameras at multiple points during Incident 4856 Tango, and a reconstruction of the document is included below. Test Case 1. Investigation into ethical handling of nuanced prophetic scenarios among members of Group 4, the SCP Foundation. Supervisor: redacted for transfer. Requirements: redacted for transfer. Summary: institute entity with intent to cause harm. Utilize native ethical code to induce dilemma. Cause harm implies self-activation. Observe actions from native timeline participants when self-action is implied. Retrieve entity and note results. If positive, then continue. Results: poor. Entity not produced. Situation unresolved. Native timeline participants not observed to succeed at any element of test. General recommendation: branch not to be used for batch process under any circumstances. Commence Test Case 2 with alternative covert entity at earliest opportunity to ascertain lower morality limits. Test Case status: failed. Thank you for listening to SCP-4856. If you enjoyed this SCP, please follow the link in the description to the SCP Wiki and vote it up to support it and the SCP Wiki as a whole.